Okay, call the meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, you're all here. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Anybody? Hearing none, moving on. 2024 audit presentation.
Yeah, not bad, huh? And slide up next to here. Come on, everyone. Is this a different room than last year? I feel like.
Fine, yes, it is.
Like it's either laid out different or we're in a completely different room.
We are.
Alright. Well, I passed out a copy of the presentation. Kind of walks us through the high-level details of the report. But you should all have the PDF copy as well, the full audit of financial statements. But if you flip into the first page, it says audit process and opinion at the top. As in the past, I'd like to start out with just a quick reminder of what exactly it is we do during an audit, what's the purpose of an audit. So basically an audit consists of us obtaining your financial records and information from throughout 2024, and then we perform various procedures over this information. So basically we're looking at the accounting transactions and the details in the accounting system that make up the numbers and information that goes into the financial statements. And we look at supporting invoices and bank statements and other reports from the state, basically all to verify that information so we can express an opinion on whether or not we feel the financials are accurate. So the opinion that we've given you this year is called an unmodified opinion. So that's a clean opinion.
Okay. And I'm sorry, what was your first name? Did you-
Ryan.
Ryan, okay.
Yeah, it's on the very last page.
Okay,
too.
thank you.
All right, so moving to the next page. So you have the clean opinion. The next page, this is basically just other required communications. If there were any problems during the audit as far as difficulties working with people here at the city or, unusual transactions. Yes, exactly. As you can see, nothing along those lines. Actually, everything went really well this year. I feel like Tammy did a great job preparing for us. It was very smooth. Which, it was our first year working with Tammy, and we're always like, how's it going to be? First year, it went really well. So.
Her evaluation's the next meeting, so
Oh.
slow down.
Well, that was my evaluation, so my input.
Well, thank you, we appreciate that.
Yep. All right, next page says controls and compliance at the top. So as part of the audit, we also have to look at basically your processes and procedures that are behind the numbers. And then there's always some pretty standard items that we have to report to you here. In fact, this page probably looks exactly like it did last year. Yeah, it's really important. But so during the audit, we do assist with some year-end adjustments. Throughout the year, you keep your books on the cash basis. You keep it pretty simple. Record the cash receipts when they come in, record the payments when they go out. But in the financials, we need to show things like year-end balances, or what do you owe other people, or how much does the state or other people owe to you, what do you have for certain capital assets and things like that. So we help with some of that year-end bookkeeping to get the financials set up the way they need to be. The next two items there under internal controls talks about a lack of proper segregation of duties. You're just never going to get away from this finding with a city your size. You would need multiple staff involved with the accounting processes in order to fully segregate them. So it's good to be aware of it, though, implement oversight where you can. And then we do prepare your financial statements as a third party. And then on the right-hand side, your review of your compliance with Minnesota statutes. Everything was clean there this year. Back, we'll get into the numbers. I'm going to start out by looking at the general funds, which is where the vast majority of your general activity for the city occurs. Really big picture look here, 2020 through 2024, and then also the 2024 budget on the right-hand side. So really big picture for starters here, comparing to the budget, revenues did exceed budget by about $39,000, and expenditures were a bit over budget as well by about $9,400. So overall, you had budgeted for just a break even for the year, and your your change in fund balance, your actual increase for the year was $41,000. Now the next 2 pages take a look at the general fund, those same revenues and expenditures, but now broken down into smaller categories. So first we have the revenues with things broken down smaller, and then the next page focuses on expenditures. And looking at revenues, you can see the 2 largest revenue sources for your general fund are property taxes and then intergovernmental revenue, which is basically like state funding and then some other grant funding sources. Across the board, very close to budget. The one deviation I see here is under intergovernmental, where you had additional revenues of about $42,000, which I think was mostly related to a Sourcewell grant that came through in here. Next page, same layout, but for the expenditures of the general fund. Just walking through here from left to right, general government there, you were over budget by about $26,000, like various repairs and maintenance and other costs. But both public safety and public works were under budget, so it kind of made up that difference there. And then on the right-hand side, capital outlay was where you were about $35,000 over budget. And I believe that was funded by that Sourcewell grant that I talked about. Next page, still at the general fund, looking at the unassigned fund balance of your general fund. So that fund balance at the end of the year as a percentage of your annual budget. So you actually have a policy in place to keep this up at least 50%. You can see you're well in excess of that policy. You're at 133%, pretty much the same as you were last year. And then the next page just shows your cash balance over the course of the past 5 years, which jumped up about $33,000. Okay, with that, we'll move into the other funds. Take a quick look at some of your other funds that have a little more activity here. The fire fund and the street improvement fund are shown on this page. Fire fund, both revenues and expenses were up quite a bit this year, just due to the $150,000 FEMA grant that came through, and then the purchase of, I think it was breathing apparatuses. So other than that, activity looked pretty consistent with prior years. So a decrease in fund balance there of about $5,300 for the year. And then the street improvement fund, not really much activity there this year. You have property tax dollars, that's the revenues you see there. Other than that, not much going on. The next page, the red and the green show the cash over the past 5 years for both of those funds. You can see the fire fund at the bottom dropped off just slightly, about $5,000. And street improvement was up about $61,000. And then all of your other non-major funds there lumped together. That would be your debt service funds, capital project fund, gambling, etc. On your enterprise funds, the next 3 pages take a quick look at each one of your enterprise funds. This is the water fund on the first page here. And the graph focuses just on operations, but we do have the full details down at the bottom below. So looking at operations for 2024 compared to 2023, revenues up about $3,000 and expenses were up about $3,700. So actually very, very similar to the prior year. Overall increase in net position for the year was about $22,000. Sewer fund, same layout. Revenues here, operating revenues up about $42,000 and operating expenses up about $15,000. So you had operating income for the year of about $100,000, but then with your non-operating activity, which includes some pretty significant transfers out to the general fund, you had a remaining change in that position of $18,000 as an increase. And then your last fund here, your solid waste fund. Here revenues were just down a little bit, about $1,200 compared to the prior year. Operating expenses did increase about $7,800 though. So you had a decrease or an operating loss for the year of about $15,000. With your non-operating activity included, a decrease of about $10,000 for the year. And then the next page shows those same 3 funds, the cash balance over the past 5 years. You can see both water and sewer have been on an upward trend, and then the solid waste fund We show it as zero in the financials because we can't show negative cash. But we show it as actually borrowing from the general fund. But it's actually borrowing about $11,000 from the general fund at this point. Which Tammy and I talked about that briefly, and it sounds like there might be an issue with how receipts are being allocated, and maybe we need to look into that a bit. And the next 2 pages just show your future debt payments. So this is not your debt balance, this is the amount of payment that is due each year going forward. So the blue is the principal portion of the payment, and the red is the interest. You can see governmental funds, that's your debt that's being financed by taxes and assessments. That's paid off by 2028, I think is the last year of payment. And then the next page for your proprietary funds, this is your 2 PFA loans that are outstanding. You can see when each of those gets paid off and then the payments drop off. And that final date there, that's an error, that's supposed to say 2035.
I'll say 3035 on there.
Yeah, I've got it crossed out on my end. The pages were printed. That's everything I have. Any questions?
Ryan, that was a lot of information. Thank you so much for being here. My only question is these last few pages on the scale where the red is the interest.
Yep.
And when you said that the prospective year for payoff of our debt will be, as I remember, it was the same as last year, 2028. So once we hit 2028, what's going to happen in these last 2 pages? Will they start all
I
over?
can either drop them off, or are you going to be issuing any new debt in the near future?
Probably in 2 years.
Yeah. Depends on whether or not you issue new debt. Put it that way.
I'm just teasing. But no, this is all great information, and you know, from what I see and comparing apples to apples, and I love how this is all broken down from years, you know, but a lot of the numbers are pretty much the same as last year, which is
Yeah, a lot of consistency.
Yeah.
I don't see any real problems in the
Okay.
financial statements, you know. And definitely no problems in the report. I mean, it was very clean audit.
that's great.
But some cities I go to, and it's like, well, this fund, we need to do something here. You know, there's a problem. But I really don't see any issues like that. So it seems like it's pretty well managed.
Consistency. That's great. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for us?
I don't believe so.
I still have all this information from last year in a bigger portfolio. Do you guys
I'm
recycle?
impressed. The follow-up question threw me off.
Do you guys recycle? Thank you so much for your time, Ryan.
For sure.
We appreciate this.
You know, it's got some notes on it, but you can have mine. That's okay.
Thank you so much.
An autographed edition.
That's right.
Consent agenda. Disbursements. Disbursements registered, including claims list for approval. And minutes of the April 14th meeting. Motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Thanks again, Ryan.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Move on to department reports, planning and zoning.
So it looks like we have a meeting scheduled for June 24th. That's all I know about it.
That's our third comprehensive plan meeting.
The third one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, planning and zoning, May 19th.
Yeah, this is just the next comprehensive plan meeting up.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's scheduled for June 24th at 4:30, and it'll be here.
Okay.
I can't remember what day of the week that is. Do you remember?
I think it's Thursday. I think we stuck to Thursdays,
Okay.
if I remember correctly.
June 24th.
Mm-hmm.
4:30.
Yeah.
And everybody's welcome, the whole community.
Okay, anything else on that? Moving on. Administration Department.
I just wanted to introduce our new deputy clerk, Kristen Ziegler.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Today's her first day, and we're throwing a lot at her, so she's keeping a positive attitude, so that's, she's still
So you're
smiling.
from around here?
Staples.
Okay.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And Janae's last day will be a week from Thursday, May
Okay.
And you will be gone.
8th. I won't be here.
Do you have anything else for us? Anybody have anything for Tammy? Moving on. Old business. Awarded Region 5 EECBG grant, $20,000 to be used for planning city hall upgrades and implement energy efficiency. Do I have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept that.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any other old business? Hearing none. Moving on to new business. Citywide cleanup day is Saturday, May 10th, from 7:45 to 10:45 a.m. Volunteers are welcome. You should mark that on your agenda there.
I'm there every year.
I've got it.
I wear gloves and boots and everything.
I'm on board regularly.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I saw that.
Any other new business? Hearing none, moving on. Public forum. Anybody in the public wish to address the council?
I'm on the spot. Good to see you.
Moving on.
done.
Thank you.
Council forum. Any member of the council wish to? Hearing none. Upcoming meetings and important dates. Citywide garage sales are May 2nd and 3rd. Maps available at City Hall and online. Citywide cleanup days, May 10th, 7:45 a.m. to 10:45 a.m. at City Garage. Regular council meeting, Monday, May 12th, 4:30 p.m. at City Hall. P&Z meeting is Monday, May 19th, 2 p.m. at City Hall. Memorial Day, Monday, May 26th. City offices closed. We now adjourn to a closed meeting for employee review.
Before you adjourn, I would just like to ask everybody if after the review, if you could stick around and sign some, I just have a little usual paperwork, but I didn't do anything.
Okay. Sure thing.
Thank you.
Do you want a motion to adjourn this one?
Yes, motion to adjourn to go to a closed meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?